All right, welcome out. Here we are for enthusiasm. Again, just to reiterate, we're looking at the various lessons, 16 of them, within the overall concept of achievement. Okay, so or the laws of success, the laws or principles of success, according to Napoleon Hill and some of his alleged scientific, pseudoscientific research. I'm not an advocate of that, as I've said before, but the foundational fundamental concepts are pretty solid, pretty fundamental, and have been used pretty extensively throughout the years, decades, ever since this was written in 1928. And anybody in achievement, field of achievement, is aware of this text, probably knows the lessons or knows of them, and probably incorporate some of the concepts into their material. And this goes right up to Tony Robbins today and others who have used those success principles. Okay, so this is lesson 7, enthusiasm. I gave a beggar a dime with a suggestion that he invested in a copy of Elbert Hubbard's Message to Garcia. You have to look that one up. I don't know what that is. You can, and he's always starting off each, I call them chapters, doesn't matter, each lesson with this basic statement: you can do it if you believe you can. And that's a part of the concept of conceive, believe, achieve, right? Enthusiasm is a state of mind that inspires and arouses one to put action to the task at hand. It does more than this. It is contagious and vitally affects not only enthusiasts, but all with whom he comes in contact. Enthusiasm bears the same relationship to a human being that steam does to the locomotive. It is the vital moving force that impels action. The greatest leaders of men are those who know how to inspire enthusiasm in their followers. Enthusiasm is the most important factor in entering into salesmanship. It is by far the most vital factor that enters into public speaking. If you wish to understand the difference between a man who is enthusiastic and one who is not, compare Billy Sunday, of course, these are old references, right, with the average man of his profession. The finest sermon ever delivered would fall upon deaf ears if it were not backed with enthusiasm by the speaker. Okay, and enthusiasm doesn't necessarily mean you're jumping up and down and spinning cartwheels and whatever. It means that you've got some focus and some interest behind what you're saying. You've done your research, you've done your homework, you believe in it, you're committed to it, right? You're following through. It's not just something you're doing for the sake of making money, or it's not a knee-jerk reflex reaction. It's not just something that you'd be doing forever, and you just continue to do it because it's makes you money or whatever it is. It's my job, that type of thing. Mix enthusiasm with your work and it will not seem hard or monotonous. Enthusiasm will so energize your body that you can get along with less than half the usual amount of sleep. And at the same time, it will enable you to perform from 2 to 3 times as much work as you usually perform in a given period without fatigue. And this is why people who have been doing something that they've loved all their lives still work, into their 50s, 60s, 70s, and some later. You see this, people in business, you see performers, you see artists, whomever, right? And they just keep going because they say, why should I quit or retire or take time off? I love what I'm doing. I still have the energy for it, still have the enthusiasm, right? Because they have that love or that passion or that fire for that thing, right? So it's the thing that keeps them going. And as I've said before, if you don't find something that does that for you, then you're not going to last long, A lot of people will take a job, but it's just for the money. It doesn't matter. You just need money to pay the bills. It doesn't matter what you do, right? Well, maybe temporarily in the short term, but in the long term, if you want to get something done, if you want to achieve, if you want longevity, if you want a healthy, long-lasting life, then you probably want to do something that's going to enliven you, energize yourself. It's been shown, research has been done in this, where one who is in a negative, down state of mind or depressed or not interested or not engaged or not enthusiastic, usually ends up having health issues, does not last long, and so forth and so on, right? You hear about people who retire, and then a few years after they retire, they're gone, they're dead, right? So enthusiasm essential in many ways, right? Last paragraph, enthusiasm is not merely a figure of speech. It is a vital force that you can harness and use with profit. Without it, you would resemble an electric battery without electricity, right? So you would, well, you wouldn't be on at all if you didn't have the electricity. The energy source is there, I guess, right? But there would be no electricity. The lights would not be on. What do they say? The lights are on, but nobody's home. Well, you would have lights on, but nobody be home. Enthusiasm is the vital force with which you recharge your body and develop a dynamic personality. True. Some people are blessed with natural enthusiasm, while others must acquire it. The procedure through which it may be developed is simple. It begins by the doing of the work or rendering of the service which one likes best. There it is, right? That's the key. What do you like best to do? And you might not always be able to find what you love to do right off the bat, or do something, you know, that pays, that's related to what you love to do, or at least what you're interested in, you know, highly interested in, at least, right? Bare minimum. If you should be so situated that you cannot conveniently engage in the work with which you like best for the time being, then you can proceed along another line very effectively by adopting a definite chief aim. And you'll see, and you've seen this probably if you've been paying attention to the videos and the lessons that he's constantly referring back and intertwining all the lessons, right? They're rarely operating independently of each other. They're intertwining, and their functionality is, and again, I've talked about me putting together a chart to show you the overlap, you know, and I'll do it based on what I know. You know, I've read his stuff, but I understand how all this stuff works as it is, right? Effectively by adopting a definite chief aim that contemplates your engaging in that particular work at some future time. Lack of capital and many other circumstances over which you have no immediate control may force you to engage in works which you do not like, and I've been there, many have, well, probably most, right? But no one can stop you from determining in your own mind what your definite chief aim in life shall be, right? Nor can anyone stop you from planning ways and means for translating this aim into reality. Nor can anyone stop you from mixing enthusiasm with your plans. Happiness, the final object of all human effort. Contentment, happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction, joy, you know, that internal warm feeling, I guess you could say. Happiness is the state of mind that can be maintained only through the hope of future achievements, right? So if you don't have something to look forward to, if you're doing something that is sapping your enthusiasm, right? It's just a matter of time before the whole thing gives out, you know. How do you keep moving forward, you know, if there's nothing to look forward to, right? Happiness lies always in the future and never in the past. There you go. The happy person is the one who dreams of heights of achievement that are yet unattained. The home you intend to own, the money you intend to earn and place in the bank, the trip you intend to take when you can afford it, the position in life you intend to fill when you have prepared yourself. Preparation itself these days are the things that produce happiness, right? Likewise, there are the materials out of which your definite chief aim is formed. These are the things over which you may become enthusiastic, no matter what your present station in life may be, right? And now he goes into, so we've got here, this is, you know, in the first 4 pages, he's basically defining terms. He's showing you, giving you kind of an abstract or an outline for the more vague definitions, right? And then in order to show, this is basic writing and communication, in order to show more specifically what one is speaking through mere abstractions or a thesis or a premise, definitional statements, right? That's what most of that was that I was reading. Now we support that and build that with evidence, right? Evidence support could be examples, exemplification. Could be you know, your own personal examples. It could be examples of well-known people, not so well-known people. Maybe some research, taking a look at research data, taking a look at what experts say about something that you're talking about in the specific field that you're talking about. charts, graphs, data, whatever it is, right? So he gives you an example here. As I said, I'm not going to read through the examples. I'm more interested in looking at the abstracts or the definitional statements that he makes throughout the text, right? How your enthusiasm will affect others. We come now to the discussion of one of the most important subjects of this reading course, namely suggestion. In the preceding lessons, we have discussed the subject of autosuggestion. Again, this is not something that I'm behind. I get behind kind of pseudoscience, New Age stuff, I guess, even though it wasn't New Age back then. It's called New Age now, maybe like numerology or star charts or something like that, not my thing, but if you're into it or you find other people are into it, then so be it. Just not my thing, so I'm not going to talk about it. In the preceding lessons, we have discussed the subject of autosuggestion, which is self-suggestion, and that's not bad. I mean, if you want to, get yourself focused, get yourself in the game, it's kind of like mentally psyching yourself up. I think athletes do this, speakers, politicians, actors, people in the limelight. They get themselves up, or get themselves ready for the part, or ready for the subject matter that they're dealing with, and focus on it on a regular basis, right? You saw in lesson 3 what an important part of autosuggestion plays. Suggestion is the principle through which your words and your acts and even your state of mind influences others, right? So I guess there's also the concept or the philosophy that in order to achieve, you have to have had to achieve in your mind first, believed it first. It has to be functioning here first, right? And then it's made evident or obvious, or it materializes in the real world, right? Through action or massive action or acting upon your outside environment. So again, inner projection is my company, and I do believe in that. But as far as autosuggestion or focusing on, a Porsche, I'm going to just keep focusing on Porsche. Eventually I'll get it. It'll materialize in my driveway or something. I don't know how it works. Or there was an example in The Secret, which is based on Napoleon Hill's law of attraction or attraction vibrations, and all that stuff. There was a kid who kept seeing a bicycle in his mind's eye, right? And then eventually a bicycle appeared. I don't know, his uncle or somebody brought it, and I don't know if that was a combination of him thinking about it and also talking about it. So, or visualizing. There's another example in The Secret where this individual, and you have to ask, is this just a freak event? Does it really work? To what degree, how much, when, how often, right? There was one scene where a person who became really successful bought a house, and he brought all his stuff with him. And in the box, he had his vision board. I talked about that before. So on your vision board, you put things in there like, what your spouse is going to look like, what your future family is going to look like, 3 boys and 2 girls or something like that, the town that you're going to live in, what it's going to look like, the company that you build, what it's going to look like, the house that you want to live in. And he took a house from, and this is kind of freaky, but he took a house from a magazine and put it into his vision board. And then come to find out, the house that he bought was the one in the magazine. So, and then again, I don't know. I just watched it. What did that actually happen? Is it confirmable? I don't know. Or is that somewhat propaganda? But anyways, in order to get your head in the game, you have to really mentally. That's what I did when I was doing speaking or doing stand-up comedy. I had to constantly get into my head the thoughts in there that needed to be in there so that I can get up and do what I needed to do. It took quite some time. It was kind of this auto suggestion stuff, but I didn't know any of this stuff at the time. I came to all of this stuff that I'm coaching on. I came to at a much later date. I had already been using most of it unknowingly, and that's what Ching Chu talks about in Thick Face Blackheart. You don't learn it; it's already in you. What you finally do is just uncover it or discover it or its potential within you. That type. When your own mind is vibrating, here we are again, right? At the high rate, because it has been stimulated with enthusiasm, that vibration registers in the mind of all within its radius. So it's, ESPN, not ESPN, ESPN, that's just sensory perception, ESPN. That's the old joke, right? Extrasensory perception. Do you have ESP? Do you have certain mental powers and vibrations and signals and thoughts that you can send out into the outer world and influence people and manifest things? Bring out a Porsche, bring out a house, I don't know, to what degree I would never do it. I couldn't do it because I don't believe in it enough, right? Especially in the mind of those who you come in close contact. When a public speaker senses the feeling that his audience is en rapport with him, he merely recognizes the fact that his own enthusiasm has influenced the minds of his listeners until their minds are vibrating in harmony with his own. And I've felt that before. I have certainly felt that before when I'm speaking. When I'm speaking, I feel it inside with what I'm saying. It becomes very in the flow of the moment. It's very cathartic. You feel this warm buzz. You feel something a little extraordinary going on inside you. And I've had, audience members or students or clients or others, mention that, I gave a talk one time in front of maybe 150 people. And I had some people come up to me after and say, that was amazing. I didn't think it was anything amazing, but I guess, something happened, right? And I think that comes from doing what you want to do. You're really into it. You're really focused. You're really engaged. You're putting in 150, 500%, 1,000%, right? You really care about what you're doing. So, of course, you're probably going to connect to people and get some considerable feedback, if you're doing what you love, what you do, and you do it well, right? And you're probably going to do it well. You have enthusiasm because you're doing what you want to do. You're tapping into your strengths, your basic desires, innate, natural desires, tendencies, gifts, right? Inclinations, those things that you sense and feel when you're younger, and the things that you want to focus your time on. Some people love reading books, so they take books and go outside and read like crazy. Some people love to observe shadow, shape, and form. So they go outside and they observe shadow, shape, and form and draw, right? Some people want to get a little block or ball moving from one corner of the screen to another part of the screen on a computer. So they get into programming, coding. So what is it? Or maybe at a very young age, you're performing in the living room all the time for your friends and family or outside. But so you have natural inclinations or tendencies or gifts, stuff in you, and it's often said that if it's there and you tap into it and use it, it grows. If not, it withers and dies, and so do you, right? And I think we've all felt that to a sense, but you don't want to do that too much, right? So then he goes on with a couple more, another example, I should say. At the very bottom, when you are enthusiastic over the goods you are selling or services you are offering or the speech you are delivering, and I've been there, your state of mind becomes obvious to all who hear you by the tone of your voice. You ever hear people speak? And that's kind of disconcerting to me, the people. They all there's always there's right? They're not speaking with their full voice, and that there's something amiss. Some short change, some short circuit. Something's being shortchanged, short-circuited, right? There's not enough enthusiasm, or maybe they haven't practiced enough, or they're not convinced enough about what it is that they're talking about, or who they are, or where they are, or maybe they're having a bad day, but I don't know, that type of thing, right? Or the speech you are delivering, your state of mind becomes obvious to all who hear you by the tone of your voice, right? Whether you have ever thought of it in this way or not, is the tone in which you make a statement more than it is the statement itself, right? So it's not so much about what people say. They don't remember what you say, but they remember that you cared. There's your enthusiasm, right? People don't really remember or recall what you said, but they remember that you cared. It's the enthusiasm, it's the emotion, and it's the humanity. Oh, the humanity, right? That carries conviction or fails to convince. No mere combination of words can ever take the place of a deep belief in a statement that expressed with burning enthusiasm. There you go, right? Words are about the devitalized. That's a new word on me. Words are but devitalized sounds unless colored with feeling that is born of enthusiasm, right? So this is good. This is, to me, this isn't like highfalutin space age, surreal type of stuff, pseudoscience, right? That type of thing. This is just practical common sense stuff, right? Here the printed word fails me, for I can never express with mere type of paper and the difference, mere type and paper, the difference between words that fall from unemotional lips with the fire of enthusiasm back of them, and those which seem to pour forth from a heart that is bursting with eagerness for expression. The difference is there, however, and you've seen this before. You've seen probably certain people, maybe in business and politics, but probably more so like in the arts, right? Certain people are just really, comedians or singers or visual artists, actors. They're just really possessed by what they do. Their enthusiasm is contagious, I guess. Thus, what you say and the way in which you say it conveys a meaning that may be just the opposite to what is intended. This accounts for many a failure by the salesman who presents his argument in words which seem logical, but lack the coloring that can come only from enthusiasm, right? So, if you analyze something too much or, speak just to a script and you really don't believe what you're saying behind the words, that's what, like people who call up and try to sell you on the phone, telemarketers, right? It's just, a lot of times it's just words, right? You can hear them, either they're reading the script or they've memorized it, and it's just word salad, right? And you're like, I gotta go, and they don't hang up, and you just hang up on them, right? That's not gonna work, right? Enthusiasm that is born of sincerity. So again, it's about being honest, it's about being sincere, it's enthusiasm. All the Boy Scout, Girl Scout stuff, right? Are you on the up and up? Are you honest? Are you enthusiastic? Are you an honorable person? Do you have some integrity? Do you do what you say you're going to do? Do you follow through? Are you good to your word? All that stuff. Honest, clean, brave, thrifty, reverent, virtuous, right? All that stuff, all that Boy Scout, Girl Scout stuff, right? Believing the goods he is trying to sell, his words said one thing, but the tone of his voice suggested something entirely different. Therefore, no sale was made. If a man, bottom paragraph, if a man preached the golden rule as a sound rule of conduct, his words will fall upon deaf ears if he does not practice that which he preaches. There you go. That's another thing. If you're inconsistent, if you're too much of a hypocrite, right? Just think politics. Politicians are full of hypocrisy, right? Then in politics, I don't know that's a strange beast. That's a strange environment because there's all kinds of lying and misperception and misunderstanding and hypocrisy, and but I think that is so, politics is so divided between party lines that people just get so much behind a party, right? And ignore common sense and decency and honor and being ethical, right? They kind of ignore all that. Doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't matter. All that matters is supporting the party. Are you for the party? Right? You can lie and cheat and steal and backstab, no problem, as long as you're for the party. Right? It sounds kind of weird, but that's kind of politics, sadly, right? If a man preach golden rule, I did that one. The most effective sermon that any man can preach on the soundness of the golden rule is that which he preaches by suggestion. There it is. The suggestion comes again. When he applies this rule in his relationship with his fellow men. Ford automobile. So now we go into an example. I know a life insurance salesman, another example. Here's another example. Some years ago, I wrote a book entitled How to Sell Your Services. A lot of this is, geared towards salesmanship, and a lot of these self-improvement or self-help books, achievement books, I guess you could say, and deal with sales. But salesmanship, people think that it's just, you're selling widgets, you're selling phones, you're selling cars, you're selling insurance. And that may be true, but all of us are selling something at some time. If you're a teacher, you're trying to sell thoughts, you're trying to sell information, right? You're trying to get it over to your students, right? If you're if you're a lawyer, I guess you're trying to sell the point that your client is not guilty, right? You're trying to sell to the judge, but more so to the jury, I guess, initially, right? And then the judge. The judge is kind of the arbitrator there, so you're really selling to the jury. So any of that stuff, even in a relationship or at work, you're trying to sell yourself, right? Sell yourself to get in. You're selling yourself to get a raise. You're selling yourself to move up, right? So sales isn't necessarily just traditional sales in the traditional sense. Almost everything we do has a sale or selling type element to it, right? If you're a scientist, you're writing papers, you're trying to sell your particular slant on a theory or a concept, right? So that I think people see this sales stuff, you get turned off. Oh, I'm not a salesperson. You don't have to for this to work. Just like a thick-faced blackguard. It's the woman. She's no longer alive. Was a business person, but the book is for business people, business and life, right? And anyone, I've had students of all types of backgrounds or clients, people from all types of backgrounds read that book and find it applicable. So same here, right? Let's see, what else we got? Let me just scroll. A careful inventory of all your past experiences may disclose the startling fact that everything has happened for the best. Everything has happened for the best. I don't know if that's true, but probably more than most has happened for the best. Because, I've been around a long time and I've seen a lot of people worry about a lot of things, but inevitably, in most cases, people survive. Life goes on, Eventually you pass on, but most people live through a ripe old age. So all these worries and doubts and fears about things, life coming along, relationships falling apart, losing jobs, losing health temporarily, and so forth and so on, whatever. Eventually, for most of us, so this is mostly true, right? Disclosing that fact that everything has happened for the best. But I wouldn't say everything. Everything, when we talk about absolutes, everything, all the time, 100%, right? Something always or never happening, rare, right? So I would probably qualify that statement, right? Dear Mr. Forrest, so here he's got some letters and things. The 2 letters he's examining, right? Let's look at this last paragraph. The most damaging suggestion of all is contained in the last and most important paragraph of the letter. Thanking you in advance for any consideration you may care to show me. That's for any consideration you may care to show me, right? That is probably about as wishy-washy. If you're trying to sell something, just like I advise my clients, whomever I'm speaking to, when you go in there, you want the job, ask for it. Don't leave and go, okay, thanks, bye. Good talking to you. Nice conversation with you. You say, hey, I really enjoyed our conversation. I've researched this company considerably, extensively, exhaustively. I know what we've got here. I know generally what you've got here. You've answered many more of my questions. I've got quite a bit more insight into what you're all about. And I'm very enthusiastic about being asked back to work for you. I want the job. You're not going, any little scrap, any little bit of scrap or something you could throw my way, a little tidbit, little morsel, just throw it down, slap it down, and I'll come back on my knees and scoop it up and whatever you got, Not going to work. This sentence strongly suggests, and I haven't even read this, so he's probably going to say what I'm saying, right? This sentence strongly suggests that the writer of the letter anticipates a refusal. There it is, right? I didn't think that, but I was thinking that they're not going to get the job, regardless of what they're anticipating. Those words are pretty weak and wishy-washy, wimbly-pimbly, right? Lack of enthusiasm, right? So, and that's another thing. If you're speaking in front of people, you got to have some sense of control, command and control, right? It's different. That's why a lot of people don't want to get up in front of people, because they don't have that. And it takes a while. For most people, some have it more innately or naturally, more of an intuitive type of control, sense of control before people. But that's something that you have to develop over time with experience and a lot of exposure, a lot of practice, and a lot of head games. You have to work yourself through. Tell you from personal experience, right? You wouldn't, here's another one. You wouldn't subscribe for the post to help me out, would you? Could you be more backpedaling, right? You wouldn't subscribe for the post. You're saying, you're almost telling a person, trying to convince them that they won't, right? To help me out, would you? Right? Let's see. Being students, first impressions really do count. Dress to look the part you intend to play in life, but take care not to overdo it. And I've seen some people usually go one or the other extreme. Way underdressed. There was a English professor. I never had him, but I think he was the chair of the department or whatever. And I met him. He was in some like I don't know, was it the tank top? Maybe it was a tank top. And he had like a mohawk or something, or some like military shorts on and big boots. And I'm going, this is the chair of the English department, or maybe some division, I forgot. It was just kind of weird, right? So that's probably way underdressed, way underdoing it, right? And then there are people that dress to the T. They're always wearing super fancy high-end clothes, and that's too much, And even in informal situations, so you want something, you want to be comfortable, you want to be respectful. Don't turn it up so much that your clothes are a distraction, but don't turn it down so much that your clothes are a distraction. Right? Too sloppy or too underplayed or too much, too overdressed, right? And when you're not, maybe after you've been there a while, I guess, you've been working there 10, 15 years or 20 years, you can take it down a little bit, right? But don't go too far. Let's see. A man of your position is bound to be well informed. I'm looking at the italicized words. Those are usually the main, or not the main points, or some main points that he's making, right? A man of your position is bound to be well informed, and if he isn't, it will show up in his own work, right? Yeah. Eventually, it's going to show, right? Whether or not you're prepared, whether or not you've done the work, or maybe done way more than what you should have done or would be expected to do, right? That's generally where I go. It's not 100%, 500,000. Go nuts, go ballistic. I'm reading, dozens, hundreds of books about various fields. I'm not just studying my field, right? But I'm understanding as much as I can about constitutional law, about the lay of the land, the law of the land. I'm trying to understand something about at least the basics about economics and finance and physics and mathematics, and what is math, and why are there different mathematical systems that have been developed and utilized over the years, and just kind of a well-rounded, well-read understanding of human nature, human existence, so that you can speak on a relatively intelligent level. You can basically connect to almost anyone about anything. If you're going to be a presenter, a speaker, then you want to be well-rounded in that regard. So that's what I thought I needed, and I did it. Let's see. More on those examples. At no time during her stay, these are the key points he's trying to make, right? Again, I'm not going to read through all these examples or pieces of evidence. That's your job, not mine. At no time during her stay did she leave the impression that I was favoring her by purchasing her magazines. Just to the contrary, she distinctly impressed me with the feeling that she was rendering me a favor. This was tactful. This was tactful suggestion. Tactful suggestion, right? Interesting concept. Remember, suggestion and enthusiasm go hand in hand. So again, this is a part of his program. I don't particularly buy into it or advocate it, right? Yeah, to each his own. Half the wrecks that strew life's ocean, if some star had been their guide, might in safety now be riding, but they drifted with the tide, right? So I guess you're always looking for a course to be on, right? Don't just wing it. Do your research, know what you're doing, that type of thing. A lot of examples. Where does enthusiasm come in, do you ask? Never mind, it came in all right, but if you wish to know who brought it, you will have to ask the life insurance agent and his 4 medical accomplices. For I'm sure they must have had a hearty laugh at my expense, but the trick was all right. I needed the insurance anyways. Of course, if you happen to be a life insurance agent, you will not grab this idea and work it out on the next prospective client who is slow in making up his mind about taking a policy out. Of course, you will not. Right? And again, he's talking about the 2 letters. He brings in a lot about those letters. Again, I'm not going to read through the examples. Conceit is a frog which envelops a man's real character beyond his own recognition. It weakens his native ability and strengthens all his consistencies. Conceit. So conceit is really a focus on the self, and I don't see that too frequently in people who are highly successful, who maintain success. It's kind of self-destructive, and other people don't like it either. Conceit is where you have no sense of humor about it, right? You're seriously walking around going on the greatest, nobody can touch me, don't talk to me, don't ask me to do things with you, you inferior in being, people can feign conceit, pretend, and play with it. But if it is a part of your personality, right, that's, envelops a person's character. True. And it's just really, there's a certain, that's another thing I got to do. List a whole bunch, you can do this yourself, right? List a whole bunch of negative characteristics that you find repulsive in others, right? And you may find a lot of you, right, and some of those characteristics. And you want to work on them. Again, I told you there's a couple places, I think, in this book and also the other book, where there's just a list of character personality characteristics. That's the word I'm looking for. Characteristics, lazy, slothful, arrogant, conceited, so forth, so on. There was one passage, there was like 12 or 15 of them. And I remember when I was younger, I said, geez, I probably had most of those, if not all of them, in droves. I had them a lot. I was doing a lot of those negative, or involved in exhibiting a lot of those negative characteristics, right? But as time went on, and I looked at the list, now or more recently, there's probably 2 or 3 that I would dip my toe in periodically, not because I wanted to, a lot of weakness, But most of those characteristics that are weaknesses, I had pretty much abolished. So let's look at the second paragraph there, first complete paragraph. I wish to take advantage of this appropriate opportunity to state that all the really big men whom I have had the pleasure of knowing have been the most willing and courteous men of my acquaintance when it came to rendering service that was of benefit to others. Perhaps that was one reason why they were really big men, right? So there's really something. And study those people in business, politics, entertainment, education, medicine, finance, or whatever, Those people who last and endure, right? They usually have, and this is something that Napoleon Hill points out in this book, right? They're not really petty and small-minded and arrogant, and there may be some of that, but they don't, even if it's there, they don't exhibit it often or show it often. They're generally, their characteristics, or the characteristics that define them, are generally, majority of them are of the positive variety, right? And we all have our down moments and down periods and weaknesses, but generally, you want to have those characteristics that are uplifting to help you be uplifted and to uplift others, that type of thing, right? One of its outstanding characteristics is noticed in the fact that all impressions which reach it, either through outside suggestion or auto-suggestion, are recorded together in groups which harmonize in nature. The negative impressions are stored away all in one portion of the brain, while the positive impressions are stored in another portion. When one of these impressions or past experiences is called into the conscious mind through the principle of memory, there is a tendency to recall with it all others of a similar nature, right? And that's why I suggest you monitor what goes in here, what goes in here, probably what goes in here as well. Right? What you see, what you hear, what you read, the environment that you're in, right? Who you associate with, the places you go, things like that. It really, it all eventually affects us at a subconscious level. We're not even conscious of it, at a subconscious level, right? For example, like my parents, or your parents, or the people you hang out around a lot with. I found that when I was in my 30s, I started to hear my dad's voice come out of it. And one time, it had been happening for a while. Then one time it was so strong, the thoughts, the word patterns that I was using, the specific words or arrangement of words, the tone or the inflection of what I was saying, even the body language, it was my dad. I was like mainlining my dad. He was in me, and it really kind of freaked me out. But I focused on it and focused more on, just being me, and eventually it went away. But it was really weird. So if you hang out with people or ideas or concepts or stuff, or in locations with people or certain people, that seeps into you, right? How it affects you, it varies from person to person. There's a variation, right? Of how deeply or profoundly or how long, effectively, the length and effect, deepest of effect it can have on you. But you got to be careful, right? If a man is asked by a stranger to cash a check, immediately he remembers having cashed checks that were no good, were not good, or having heard of others who did so. Through the law of association, all similar emotions, experiences, and sense impressions that reach the mind are filed away together, so that the recalling of one has a tendency to bring back memories of all others. So this is a little bit of the psychology or understanding how the mind works, right? And that's something you should probably look into. I've done a little bit of that, not a lot, but I understand how the mind works and a lot of its shortcomings, and how we overlay memories, and how terrible we are at recalling things, and we often recall things inaccurately, especially the more and more time that passes. We overlay thoughts and ideas and images and other things that have existed outside of us and aren't even a part of the original experience, but we overlay them, stuff that's not even part of the original experience. We overlay them on our experience. and then remember them as our experience, right? So we're really, you know, our brain, our mind is a very terrible processor, right? It can't take in much information at any given moment. It takes in information in strings of 3s and 4s, right? Short-term memory is very disruptive and very ineffective. Long-term memory is terrible. You know, in order to put something in a long-term memory, for most people, I'm not talking about people who can just, you know, remember something verbatim, right? Photographic memories. But most people, it takes some time, and it takes a lot of repetition and work and continuous work over lengthy periods of time to really put a good amount of knowledge into our minds and keep it there, right? But again, it can be there, and if you don't use it, eventually it's going to fade, right? So you have to keep refreshing, right? So our brain is a terrible processor. It's a terrible taker in, retainer, and recaller of information, right? So this is kind of interesting stuff. To arouse a feeling of distrust in a person's mind, has a tendency to bring to the surface every doubt-building experience that person ever had. For this reason, successful salesmen endeavor to keep away from the discussion of subjects that may arouse the buyer's chain of doubt impressions. There's a lot of psychological ploys used in sales, right? Salespeople use it. Politicians understand what to do and not to do in order to get people to remember certain things, or be swayed in a particular direction, you know, so that they vote, or things not to tell them or not to do, right? And it's not so much about being 100% honest and factual and getting down to the the bare bones of the problem, but it's really about just, you know, getting the job done, getting in office, getting certain things done, making money, retaining power, paying my donors so I can stay in office, build an office. What else we got? I think we're kind of. Here's another example. Not long ago, I was approached by an agent. Golden rule of thumb. No man can afford to express through words or acts that which is not in harmony with his own belief. And if he does so, he must pay by the loss of his ability to influence others, right? So again, if you don't believe it, right? And people can pretty much tell whether or not you're being honest or sincere, right? So that's kind of common sense stuff. The answer is that you will know only by experimenting for yourself and by observing others who faithfully apply this principle and those who do not apply it, right? I think he's talking about here, I'm an authority because I have experimented with the principle until I know how it works, right? And that's true. So again, it's a constant going over and a constant reworking of the neurons, the synaptic nerves, and the neurons in your brain, you know, that keep building those, or refreshing or reimbursing those impressions, right? That's how people become great speakers or thinkers or politicians or doctors or lawyers or engineers or athletes, right? It's just a constant bringing forth a constant memory or understanding, you know, of what it is that you're trying to do. It could be in the mental, it could be in the physical, right? If you think your lot in life has been hard, read up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington, and you may see how fortunate you have been. Yeah. Anytime you think you're in a bad situation, like Americans, people complain about America, but what is it? 84% of the rest of the world. If you have clothes on your back, money in your account, place to live, food in your refrigerator, and a car in your driveway, you're living better than 85% of the rest of the world. And I'm just talking, you know, you could have like a 1-bedroom apartment, right? That's the place to live, right? If you have that, you're doing better than 85% of the rest of the world. So here we are in America. It must really upset people around the world when they see Americans complaining so much. You know, this country is terrible, that type of thing. You know, every place has its problems, but by compare and contrast? Not even close. Let me see if there's anything else in here I want to talk about. A lot of examples. Enthusiasm is never a matter of chance. There you go. There are certain stimuli which produce enthusiasm. Most importantly, being the following: occupation in which one loves the work, environment where one comes in contact with others who are enthusiastic, optimistic, true. I've lived in places or been in places or even walked, from a neighborhood where I was living in, which wasn't that greatest, into other neighborhoods, and you can feel the difference. All of a sudden, there's energy, that you didn't have in your neighborhood, or maybe in your place of work, and you go to a new place of work, and you feel those things, right? Financial success, complete mastery and application of one's daily work are the 15 laws of success. Good health, knowledge that one has served others, helping others, serving others is always really reimbursing and revitalizing, not only for the person you're helping, but for yourself. Good clothes and all that stuff. Psychology of good clothes. I'm not going to go into all that. Let's see what else. I think that's. There is a suitable reward for every virtue and appropriate punishment for every sin a man commits. Both the reward and punishment are effects over which no man has control as they come upon him voluntarily. Yeah, so that might be some of the vibrations in the world that he's talking about. I think that's. Your employer does not control the sort of service you render. You control that, and is the thing that makes or breaks you, right? Your employer might control you in the sense that you're earning money doing what they want you to do or need you to do, right? They control when you come in, how much time you have for a break or lunchtime, your pay, your benefits, maybe, if you're there long term. But ultimately, it's up to you. If you don't like that control, or if you're just building upon that and you want to develop more independence, and that's what a lot of people do. They set out on their own, do contracting work, such as I've done for 20 years. Right? Then you got to work your environment until it's working in your favor, right? And it's okay when you first start out. Working for somebody else is probably what most people should do. I don't want to say everyone, but most people, And then after you've built up some, skills, some work skills, you've shown that you can, come to work every day pretty much on time, take time out for break or lunch when you need it, and come back on time, leave, come home, come to work day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, and kind of commit yourself and show to yourself, your employer too, but really show to yourself that you can do it, right? And that's really, I think, where the greatest confidence and enthusiasm comes from. Just showing yourself, convincing yourself that you can do these things that you need to do, must do. 7 deadly horsemen. All right, so a lot more stuff. So the next thing is self-control, which is a very good element. Self-control is used in not only theology or religion and psychology, but also in business, high finance, investing. If you don't have good self-control, you lose a lot of money, So anyways, that's the next concept that we'll talk about.